Hey guys, it's time for AEW Dynamite results, and it's then going to be Rampage predictions. That should be all decided here. Um, Starting us off, Claudio Castagnoli and Ray Fenix had a double Jeopardy match. Oh, I forgot to mention this, but tonight's show was in Detroit, Michigan. And also they announced that they'd be in Boston for July, the next one of the July episodes of Dynamite. So there you go there. Anyway, whoever won this match then got a shot at one of the titles. Claudio, the Ring of Honor World Champion, and Ray Fenix, one half of the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. This matchup worked well, and they worked well together, which shouldn't surprise anybody. Ultimately, Claudio Castagnoli did beat Ray Fenix, in which Claudio will team with somebody to take on Ray Fenix and Penta for the ROH Tag Team titles at some point in the future. Then backstage, we saw a returning Miro. Yes, you heard that right. Miro is back. He started walking, and he was stopped by Renee Paquette asking why he's here. Then Miro just stared at her, said nothing, and walked into Tony Khan's office. A video package of the Four Pillars title match at Double or Nothing was shown, starting us off with MJF talking about how he'll have the most longevity out of all the pillars. Then a video package highlighted Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega's main event. FTR came out to the ring, immediately calling out their friend Mark Briscoe, but they instead got Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh. Dutt demanded an answer to their Double or Nothing challenge from last week. Dax Harwood accepted the challenge if they admit to using Mark Briscoe to get to them. Sanjay denied things as Mark Briscoe walked out from the back, telling everyone to relax. Mark Briscoe said Tony Khan gave some news that the tag team match is taking place at Double or Nothing, and that Mark Briscoe will be the special guest referee for the match. Briscoe then passed out cups to have a toast. Sanjay Dutt then misted tequila into the eyes of Dax Harwood. Mark Briscoe tried to keep peace when a blinded Harwood grabbed Briscoe and hit a piledriver. Lethal and company bailed as FTR attended to Mark Briscoe. Renee Paquette was backstage with Chris Jericho, asking how he's doing after Adam Cole got the best of him last week. Jericho said Cole created an unsafe work environment and has a court order saying if Jericho's in the area, Adam Cole is banned. Roderick Strong then walked in and called Jericho delusional. Strong challenged Jericho to not just a match, but to a Falls Count Anywhere fight, which Jericho accepts next week. Jericho tells him to be careful what he wishes for because he has an army. Then Roderick Strong said he figured Jericho would say something like that, and then handed a document saying JAS are also banned from the arena next week. Excalibur talks about Miro showing up earlier and going into Tony Khan's office. as they throw it back to Renee Paquette, waiting for answers, when Thunder Rosa shows up. Thunder Rosa. Rosa says tonight's the night to get answers and goes into Tony Khan's office as well. A video package on Sammy Guevara was shown, saying he's one of the pillars that shouldn't have been. And Jericho said he brought in Guevara not to be a sidekick, but to be a star. Ty Mello mentioned the main event is where he belongs, being born to do this. Guevara said to any kid out there who has a dream that it can come true. Tony Khan was backstage saying how tonight is one of the strongest Dynamite cards they've had. But even with that, there's still many talented wrestlers backstage that can provide content. Khan said next week there'd be a huge announcement, and I think, and also plenty of other people, think it's safe to assume that this is likely the talk of AEW's new Collision show coming out on Saturday nights. So we'll have to tune into next week and see what happens. Orange Cassidy then had a matchup with Daniel Garcia for the international title. Orange Cassidy did retain. Another excellent title defense in what was a good matchup here. Then a video package of Hikaru Shida was shown. The Outcasts' Macau Shida was back in Japan as they issued the 6-woman tag for next week. Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter accept. Christian Cage addresses Wardlow in the TNT title. And he had a lot to say about Arn Anderson and Wardlow. And then he was saying how Arn Anderson left his son Brock Anderson for Wardlow. And then we go to a video package on Darby Allin, who was at his house training by skateboarding and riding an ATV, saying his wrestling style is reckless. Allin said to be world champion in AEW means he could give back to what wrestling has given him. We hear from Sting saying Allin got into wrestling similar to why he did. Allin said he's going to double or nothing to become AEW world champion. Julia Hart then had a match with Anna Jay in a no holds barred match. And let's just say that these two beat the absolute crap out of each other during this entire match. Fun weapons-filled battle, and ultimately Julia Hart got the biggest win in her career at this point. Renee Paquette was backstage with Best Friends and Bandito and an injured Cassidy, who says he thinks there's room for 3 more titles in his backpack. The House of Black then took on Best Amigos in an open house match. I liked the different things that were taking place within this open house match. I think they could have introduced it a little differently. Just mainly because, they did a couple of things differently, but, they didn't really showcase that the rules are different too much. It was a nice touch, though. I'm sure things will be different when we find out as things keep going on. It's a learning experience. We'll have to just keep going and see what happens. The House of Black retained the trios titles. Backstage, we see Cassidy laid out at the feet of someone who was revealed to be Aussie Open's Kyle Fletcher, who wants to be next in line for the international title. Then the last highlight video was shown. Jungle Boy Jack Perry, who said he lived out the dream he had as a kid. And as there is a reason he aligned himself with that pillar of AEW, with Christian Cage. Perry said MJF wrestles 4 times a year, while Jack is devoted to becoming the best in the world by putting his time and hard work. Then we finally go to the main event. Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley in the steel cage match. This was another incredibly violent chapter in one of AEW's longest rivalries, with the finish being a huge swirl, or twist, I should say. When Omega said last week in his promo with Callis that everything would come to an end, I think Callis knew that to be true, just not how Omega would have liked. Let me explain. So, later on into the match, Omega was about to go for the one-winged angel, but then Don Callis, he grabbed the screwdriver and stabbed Omega in the face with that screwdriver. And then Jon Moxley won. That is how this ended. And he was about to hit Omega again, but that ultimately did not happen. He did say some words which were inaudible, but then kissing Omega on the cheek, and that was it. So overall, this was a very solid episode of Dynamite. I will certainly give this 5 out of 5. This was a very solid Dynamite. Lots of action, lots of big moments, lots of amazing things. This was easily one of the best Dynamites we've seen in a long time. This was in fact an action-packed episode of Dynamite. It kept you going the entirety of the 2 hours that you watch it. If you haven't watched this show yet, I recommend it if you can. This show was incredible. And I'm hoping Rampage will be good too, but it's probably not going to do too well since it's on Saturday night instead of normal Friday night. Anyway, speaking of Rampage, I'll come to you for predictions in a little bit. Okay, now it's time for Rampage predictions. The Acclaimed and Billy Gunn take on The Butcher, The Blade, and Kip Sabian, also known as The Change, which The Acclaimed and Billy will win this match. We will hear from the former tag team champions, The Guns. So we'll see what happens there. Toni Storm will take on Allison Kay, which is great to see Allison Kay back in AEW in general, but ultimately Toni Storm will most likely win. Then Swerve Strickland and Brian Cage of the Mogul Embassy will take on Dark Order's John Silver and Alex Reynolds. One thing, heck yes, Dark Order's back. Unfortunately, Swerve Strickland and Brian Cage will most likely win this match. And then, of course, we'll see Kyle Fletcher take on Action Andretti, following Kyle Fletcher's matchup with Orange Cassidy on Dynamite. Kyle Fletcher will most likely win this matchup too. But there you go, guys. This is TPW Talking Pro Wrestling, and I will see you guys next time. And don't forget, Best of the Super Juniors is here as well. I'll see you guys next time. Good night, everybody.